We gon' continue, as they say.
Continues.
And I want to just kind of open up the second round. This will be a short round, and each of the panelists will get to talk about what they want to focus on for this round in terms of the women of Wakanda, whether they are behind the scenes or on screen. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your responses. But I want to talk about identity, and I want to talk about representation. And I also want to talk about juxtaposition. And it comes from a few places. So first of all, identity, in the sense that we saw women, particularly Black women, with no hair, because we're all encouraged. My mother has been on me about this for a long time. We're all encouraged to have hair, and to have beautiful hair and free-flowing hair. And so I love to explore, where that comes from. Also, in terms of representation, seeing ourselves on the screen, because one of the things that Daphne Lamothe made a point about today earlier at the Seeing Black Panther event was just that, we see ourselves through these films, and it's okay for us to do it. We're getting a lot of flack about it from other people, but within our communities, especially because we've all experienced a level of psychological drama and trauma, and it's just so many things. It's been important to see ourselves in a different light, because for us, it's not just a movie. For many of us, it's not just a movie. It's a message, because that's what art does. It sends you the message of truth, even if everything around you is telling you a lie. And so that was important. But oftentimes we look for representation and we accept what we see when it's positive so easily and so quickly, is because we don't have as many images or things that we can look to. And that's also dangerous, because we don't think critically about the positive imagery that we see, or we don't think critically about Black Panther. So I want to hear about that tonight when you talk about your special areas. And finally, juxtapositions. One of the things I heard about today, which I was just completely fascinated by, was the moment when the Audi, was it an Audi? I can't even remember if it was an Audi. But what I remember the first time I saw Black Panther, the movie, was the license plate. And it had certain numbers on it that spoke a personal message to me. But then Okoye was on the top of that car with some gold sneakers. And Mama Andrea was a witness to this conversation earlier. And what she spoke about today, Daphne again spoke about today, was that something I've been thinking about, because I'm a barefoot type of person. The first thing I do when I'm in a room is take my shoes off. I don't care what my feet look like. I don't care. I need to be able to touch the ground. And she talked about the symbolism associated with those golden high top sneakers, number one, when she stood on that car and rode it. And then when Shuri virtually was driving the car, and she slammed on the brakes, and the shot was that of her having bare feet. That juxtaposition, there's a lot there. And so I want to hear from each of you in terms of identity or representation or juxtapositions that you saw in the movie. What was your thing? What is it that you want to say about who you are, who you saw yourself to be in the movie, in terms of those three themes? Or in terms of anything you want to talk about as it relates to the women of Wakanda, both on screen and behind the scenes. And I can ask who would like to go first and pass the mic to you, and then you pass it on to the next woman of Wakanda to talk about what they want to talk about. How about that? Okay, Kenya, we want you to put that microphone right here in front of your lips. Because I'm from the country, and they say all the time, I don't need a microphone. And they need a microphone. And we're also in the 21st, almost 22nd century in terms of making sure that our space is accessible to everyone, because oftentimes the people who may not be able to hear may not speak up about it. And so we want to make sure that we are able to speak into the mic. So, yeah, just saying that because I love you.
Okay, I try really hard to keep the mic directly in front of my mouth. I guess I want to start by talking about the character of Shuri, because I feel like her character is very original. She was not in the original Black Panther comic. She was created by Reginald Hudlin later on. And what I love about her is that I think that all Black women remember the 12-year-old you. You remember the time in your life when you started to transition from being a little girl to being a woman. And what I like about the Shuri character is there's a playfulness about her. There's a connection between her and the Black Panther, from big brother to little sister. But then there's also strength. And what I really enjoy and what I'm looking forward to is seeing what's going to happen when she takes over the throne as Black Panther, when she becomes Black Panther, as in that's what happens in the comics. She also takes on the character of Black Panther. Also, I was really, really intrigued by the character of Nakia. I loved what Coulter did, because the real Nakia in the comics was not so great of a character. She was actually taken out of the Durham and was turned into a villain called Malice. And so I love that they put a spin on that and gave her a positive outlook, but I don't think she's going to be with Panther. It's not going to happen. There's also this connection with Storm, which the character of Storm is important for me, because for a long time she was the only Black woman in comics. So I held on to that character, and then to see her transform with Black Panther in the comics later was really phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with those characters, and if those characters get back together, if something happens between Storm, another version, not Halle Berry, maybe somebody else.
There's that.
No, not Halle Berry.
Not Halle Berry.
Okay, so I've had a little bit of communion juice, so
Drinking of the wine, folks. Libation.
whatever the truth that comes out of my mouth is all in Jesus' name. So for me, as an extremely melanated woman, it was amazing to see Blackness and Blackness done well. It was lit well. It was dressed well. It was color theory well.
Come on.
It was just everything well. But most people say, oh, this has been the first time. No. It hasn't been the first time. Let us not forget
Come on.
Grace Jones.
Come on. Coming.
Let us
Strong
not
J.
forget
Yes, Lord.
Cicely Tyson.
Come on, somebody.
Let us not forget all the Black women who were extremely Black in film, but we forgot because they were not cherished and owned. And it was only for a moment. And I'm praying to little baby Jesus that this is not a moment, because it was beautiful in seeing rich tone and rich Black.
Brown. Yes, Lord.
It made me very happy, and I'm hoping that for my children, that they regularly see what only Ebony and Essence did. And even in that, it was only a moment. Do y'all remember that Essence cover of the black woman? She was rich black and she had this afro and there was like this gold. And see, I remember that because that's what it connected to me. I will never forget that. The first time I saw Grace Jones, it scared me because I was just like, what? Like, whoa, what, who, how? Because in popular culture, that is not given any type of praise. And the other thing that I want to say, and I'm going to say it because I have the mic right now.
What the period?
The thing about the juxtapose of this film compared to the soundtrack, and I'm going to go there. I love you, Kendrick. I know you might be watching this, but I love you.
Come on.
But
Come on with that.
Yes.
this film not once referred to anyone in the diaspora as a B or N.
Because it wasn't needed.
It wasn't needed. And the thing that, I don't care if you call me bougie, but I'm going to just say for what it is. I do not use the N word. I will not use any context of a word that was possibly the last word that my ancestor heard before they were murdered.
Wow, you did that.
So to know for 2 hours and how long?
I think it was 17 years.
Yeah. Coulter, you did that. Thank you. To know that black excellence was not connected with the N word or the B word or any kind of negative context, to us as a people, whether you are African American or African, that juxtapose to me personally needs to continue. The N word has its place, but not when it's next to black excellence.
Wow! Come on, what? Libation.
When you finish, I want to say something about that.
Period.
Because I thought everything you said was so dope. And can we just clap it up for what you said? Because
That was dope.
And I'll pass the mic really quick. And I'm hoping that one of you will address this too. But I totally agree with you. I think that the N word has its place, and the B word and the other words associated with it, because these are words that we've reclaimed in a way that we've made them really powerful when we use them in positive ways. And I understand the whole Christian aspect of black folk in this country and how Christianity has impacted us, throughout the diaspora as well. But I still think that no matter where those things come from, when they're used in a particular construct, that they're powerful. And we are multifaceted. We're certainly not a monolith. And we have this amazing ability to understand every single time what somebody's talking about. And so while I don't like when people are just, all Trinidad James on something, even though I love that song, I am not going to pretend. Because we get to do that too, y'all. And it doesn't mean that we're not intelligent or excellent or anything like that. We get to do that too.
Right.
But I don't necessarily want to hear that from everybody and all the time or whatever. And I love and appreciate what Coulter did with this film, because you're exactly right. It didn't happen. What I don't want to see is that people, because we do this all the time, I don't want to see people start to pull out these aspects of something like this and then start to perpetuate respectability politics, because respectability politics has been something that has destroyed us in a very subtle, very sneaky way. It makes us feel like we are nothing over and over if we can't be these particular things that respectability politics dictates. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Respectability politics is an assimilation to white supremacy. And not all white supremacists are white folk.
Come on.
Wait a minute. Rewind.
Yes.
A lot of them look just like me.
Wow.
Yes.
There's a period on that too. So I'm
No,
gonna pass that mic on.
Period. And that's
Representation,
like,
identity, juxtaposition. That was beautiful what you said. And I just wanted to give a pushback because we're intelligent people and we get to be critical. We get to be critical thinkers and we get to have these dope conversations with each other. I said I was having a tongue-tied moment too. So we get to have these conversations with each other. Who wants to pass the mic or who wants the mic passed to them?
all right.
So I'm really glad you said something about respectability politics, because I was thinking about the character of Nakia, like you said, who doesn't exist in the form that we see her in the movie. I see her as an abolitionist in the movie. And that doesn't lessen my respect or attraction to Okoye by any stretch of the imagination. I just see them as having different functions and roles in the protection of a culture, in the protection or keeping people free, or making people free. So I think it's ironic that they have different strategies or tactics that they take in terms of keeping people free or making people free. And because Nakia is a spy, like Harriet was a spy, because Nakia hides in plain sight in the same way that Harriet did, because Nakia is small, because Nakia can move in and out of places. I saw her very much as an abolitionist.
Wow.
Which also made sense to me why she was very much not attracted to being the queen. She said, how am I going to be the queen if I'm going to be an abolitionist? I can't move in the ways that I need to be able to move.
Come on, Omi.
So I just really appreciated what the Hudlin brothers, the Hudlin brothers, come on. They're dope, y'all. Like if you haven't had an opportunity, y'all, if you get a chance, go back and watch Hollywood Shuffle.
Wow.
So go back and watch. Go back and watch Hollywood Shuffle. Their relationship, the Hudlin brothers. What's the brother's name who did Hollywood Shuffle? Robert Townsend. The commentary on Black Hollywood and Black actors and Black arts is beautiful and ironic and intelligent, and the intellectual kind of sarcastic interrogation that they do on Black arts is amazing. But I really appreciate that. I also want to throw a little spoiler in here for y'all again. All night. That's my job. Roxane Gay, who, in addition to Ta-Nehisi Coates, is one of the writers of a Black Panther comic. And in that Black Panther comic, she expands our relationship to the LGBTQ community by having Okoye and Ayo be lovers. So she only calls Ayo's name one time in this movie when they are in the midst of the fight, right? Ayo doesn't die. When they're getting ready to fight and they're fighting in Jakarta and they're going through all this stuff, she says, Ayo, protect da-da-da-da-da. So you don't really get a sense of Ayo's role in this movie, but in the comic, Okoye and Ayo are lovers. That doesn't mean that Okoye wasn't also lovers with Wasabi. Wasabi, not Wasabi. Wasabi would be that spicy thing you put on a roll on sushi.
I'm mad this one picked it up.
Wasabi.
Immediately.
So I wanted to add that in there because I don't want to be like the sex person this evening, but I am. I do believe in decolonizing sex, and I do believe in decolonizing Black sex, because in the same way that the colonizers colonized our minds around liberation and freedom and culture, they also colonized our minds around sexuality and bodily autonomy. And so I think that what Roxane Gay did in writing that with her co-author, who both were not invited to the premiere of Black Panther,
Y'all saw that.
is that they embedded in the story a much more complex character in Okoye and who she is attracted to and who she finds love and who she finds support. And so, yes, Wakabi, and yes, Io. So I just wanted to bring, in terms of juxtaposition, in terms of we think in very heterosexist ways as if that is the only thing that can actually exist in Wakanda, and I don't think that's true. So I just wanted to put that out there for consideration when we're thinking about the ways that relationships and intimacy and connection and allegiance shows up in the comic and in the movie, that we're only seeing a piece of that.
Right.
It looked like he was trying to. Yeah, that was
Right. That was, yeah.
important.
Really wasabi? Really?
With the wasabi.
With the wasabi.
Wasabi.
Either way it comes.
Speaking of,
the one thing I do as a writer is I have this really deep affinity to do these. So I write about the 11, and I write about the above, and I write about the guardian. And the reason I do that is because I like identifying characters almost in a supernatural or a bigger role than they are as a human. So when I think about the women of Wakanda, I think about what these women were. They're pillars of Wakanda. Nakia is sort of the passion pillar of Wakanda.
Wow.
Okoye is the power pillar of Wakanda. Shuri is the knowledge, the future pillar of Wakanda. And oh Lord, I didn't even have anything to drink. Ramonda? I think she encompasses something that all of them have. So she embodies each one of these things. When I first saw the trailer, this is the very first trailer, and everybody's like super excited, but I'm like zeroing in on each specific frames. And there's this one part we have no idea what the hell's going on, but we see her in her blanket, so we already see that she's been derobed of her royalness. She's in the mountains, and we know that she's on her way where she's on her way to. And then something happens. We don't know what happens, but she kind of looks over her shoulder. She turns and she faces whatever it is. And there was something even in the trailer that was powerful about that just speaks to Black women. That even though she has been stripped of whatever makes her royals, there's still that class and that grace and that intelligence. That even though she's scared, she still turns and faces the fear of what's going on. And it just something that Black women, even if they don't do it with as much dignity and grace and class, because we aren't infallible, we have weaknesses, we do cry, we do get weak. There's just a thing that we do. Well, no matter what it is, we face it. And maybe sometimes the solution isn't as pretty as we want it to be. But I can always, there was something just powerful about seeing her being scared, looking over her shoulder and still going, I have to face this. That's it.
Okay. And there's the period.
With juxtaposition, I think that for me as an artist, I'm gonna go a strange route and actually talk about the detail versus not the detail. Everything that they did was very, very planned out. I don't know how many people actually tuned into the remake of Roots that happened, but there was a lot of stuff that they talked about sourcing clothing, sourcing fabric, very specific things, all meaning something specifically, which I thought was important. Now with Wakanda, there's this broad idea of this paradise that, you know, kind of, I guess we as Black people all kind of wish we could go and find. But it's not to say that it isn't that these small details were not paid attention to. So as the artist, I'm going to talk about Okoye's head tattoo. So Ken Davis is the guy who was responsible for designing that head tattoo, and it was a very sophisticated stencil. It took hours to apply. It was very important. They went through several iterations of trying to get the very perfect thing, and they ended up deciding on something that looked like a jet flyer's helmet, because yes, she's the leader, she's got this passion, she's got this fierceness, which is very important, but you barely ever see detailed shots of this headpiece, which is fascinating because it's such a trademark thing for her. And I think in that same sort of way, you have these things where it's the details that make up the greatness, where it's not that the light gets shined on one specific thing, it's that everything gets to make up this beautiful picture. So juxtaposition being that there's so much packed into it, and it's not that it's delving into it. There's a particular director who believed in reality and sets so much that he would pack cabinets, medicine drawers full of things that they knew would never be opened, but for the sake of the viewer, he wanted it to feel as real as possible so that things were real. So for us, diving backwards into the point about the really, really deep richness that you have in something like Star Wars, I think it's important to understand that for us, that depth is there in some considerations, whether or not they actually release the paperwork on it and say, hey, this is what we did for this. Like, that's the question of whether it becomes, okay, we get to know how much thought they put into these things, because I would bet that they're thinking about all of these because they know how much it means to all of us. So the juxtaposition being that, there are these details, these 5 details that are not being pointed out, whereas I think typically when you have something very, very fine and you say this is a specific reference to this one point in time, like the ancestor, not the ancestors, the other tribes, and the details that they put into representing nations in that, there's a lot of stuff you're like, okay, that's a costume. No, it's not just a costume. Right? There's a lot going into each of those decisions. So
I just want to say, Dare Coulter and the work that's right behind me and over to the side of me after her having responded to that. Who would like the mic next?
So I think it's important to talk about the firsts, and I think it's important to talk about people who came before the Black Panther movie, people who were a part of science fiction when there was no Afrofuturism, and the people who come to mind for me are Nichelle Nichols, who is Uhura from Star Trek. I spoke about being 12, and Nichelle Nichols was the first Black woman I saw on television. She was the first Black woman to engage in an interracial kiss on television. Nichelle Nichols has an autobiography out, which is amazing. And if you don't know anything about her, you should definitely check it out. She has connections with NASA. She's worked with NASA for years, just based on her character as Uhura. And so there would be no Okoye if there was not Nichelle Nichols. Eartha Kitt is very important to my Afro-future life. Her roles in the early Marvel comics as Catwoman, I feel are really important. And so I just, want to give a shout out to, the elders of Black women in science fiction.
Can I just say something about that really quick?
And this is a question for you, Kenya. Did you see where Roxane Gay offered to write Catwoman?
No,
Just last week that happened. And so now they're in talks of her writing, Batwoman. She offered to write Batwoman, my bad. But I was like, but what I thought, what was in my head was, what if she had that opportunity to do that in Catwoman? Because I said, Catwoman needs some help. Because I'm not feeling Catwoman right now. And it's because it's changed so dramatically. So I was wondering if you had seen that, because she offered, and now they're in talks of Roxane Gay actually writing Batgirl. I have to get it all right.
Riddle me this.
Batgirl. And so I was just, and again, I was like, but what if she also got to, what if she also helped Catwoman right on out? So I love what you said. Yeah. And just as we pass the mic, for these last few, I don't know what to call them, but I do want to come back to you, Dare, as well. I want you to talk a little bit about more about identity, because I see that in your work. And, you know, there's some other things that I've seen from you in particular. So I would like you, when you're ready, to talk about that a little bit, because you do work with young people around identity issues. And I would love to hear what you have to say about that. So if you're ready, I'll pass the mic to you now. But I also want to make sure that each person got a chance to talk about, to just make their first statement. And then I do want you to go a little deeper into something that may be personal to close out the conversation. So do you want to start?
Well, let me do the wrap up because it'll probably be...
Okay. So anybody want to go next and take that last shot on whatever it is you want to represent tonight? All right, here we go. Omisade Burney-Scott.
So Angel is always very prepared, and she asked us if we could write a soundtrack for the movie. What would our soundtrack include? And so I would be real, because I did my homework, and so I'd be really
You're welcome. I'll be back on mine.
It's okay. So I would be really remiss if I did not share that. And I actually said when we got here that if folks share their information with me, because we're all on email together, I will create the soundtrack on Spotify and share it on Facebook. So here are the songs that if Omi as DJ Omski could create. That's my DJ name. DJ Omski could create. You have to do that when you do it. So the first song is would be Neka, Africans. So if you've never heard this song, Neka is spelled Nneka, Africans. Beautiful song. It's got a little kind of reggae beat to it. It's gorgeous. The Last Poets, Black Is, I would add to that list. Blitz the Ambassador, Shine, as well as Blitz the Ambassador, Awake, as well as Blitz the Ambassador, The Departure. And that The Departure is sung by Amma Watt, and she's amazing. Oshun Lade, the Canto of Oshun et Oya, dope house mix of like Orisha music for the Orisha, Oya, and Oshun is killer. So when Nakia and T'Challa have sex, they're gonna have sex to Jade Dilla's So Far to Go. Shout out to Jade Dilla, rest in peace Dilla.
Yeah.
Right? And then Ibeji, Deathless and River. So those are my songs. And then last thing I will say is that Angel asked if we could play a role in the movie, whether it was actually in the movie or behind the scenes. I said that I would want to be a dramaturge. So I actually had an opportunity to be a dramaturge for real. A couple of years ago, there was a play here at Man Bites Dog Theater called The Brothers' Size. Yeah. And Aya Shabu was the choreographer for the movement in The Brothers' Size. Yep, she's right over there, curled up on the couch, looking cute. And the Brothers' Size is a play about two brothers and a friend who live in Louisiana, and they use Orisha as the basis for these characters. And as this is before I got initiated, but as a practitioner, they were like, we want a dramaturge to be the person who kind of like makes sure that we're being like culturally and spiritually like grounded, which is what they did in Black Panther too, right? So they had several people who made sure kind of like continentally, if they were going to be pulling from aspects of East Africa and West Africa and South Africa, that they were being true to the culture, even if it was in very nuanced ways that people didn't realize. And I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do this. My girlfriend was the person who did the gear and the jewelry and the metalwork. I know Dorian, Dorian Fletcher, who is like this dope ass jeweler, artist, person. I met her in New Orleans about 5 years ago. bought a couple of pieces from her, and she was like, Omi, I'm about to be working on a movie. And I was like, what? And I was like, what movie? She was like, I can't tell you. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, all right, I'm going to tell you. And I was like, what movie? And she was like, Black Panther. I was like, shut up. So, and I know that Dorian is very much like Dare, right? Like paying attention to the particulars of the piece, right? Like, what are the different cultural aspects that we want to include in the collars, in the shoulder pieces, in the bangles, and all those things. So I would be a dramaturge because I would really like to see more ritual and deliberate connection and interaction with the ancestor realm. In particular, I would have preferred to have seen some masquerade, a gungun, a masquerade in that interaction, as well as Gelade, which is masquerade as well. So I would have been very interested to see how in most indigenous spiritual traditions from the continent, masquerade is a part of the tradition where people take on a persona to tell a story, take on a persona to connect with ancestral energy. And I would have been very much interested in seeing that happen more in the movie. And as a dramaturge, I would have been like, you're paying me to tell you things that are culturally appropriate. I feel like you should do that.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at Omisade, Omisade, not to be confused with Omisade or Omisada. That is not my name. Omisade at sistersong.net. You can also check us out at www.sistersong.net. My Instagram is at Oshun Sweet and Sour. That's OSHUN Sweet in Sour.
Okay, so I'll start with the soundtrack. So I think that the songs, well, the music that I think of when I think about Wakanda and what I want to see in Wakanda really goes to the comic for me, and it goes to just Wakanda being magic. And I think that in the movie, they didn't really get to the part where T'Challa starts to use magic, where there's magic incorporated that with the vibranium. So the music that I'm thinking of in my head is in space in that time period. So the artist that I would choose would be Thundercat, Flying Lotus. I would choose Gorillas. I would choose Ninth Wonder. That's my brother, Ninth Wonder. I would go that route with the music. I didn't have a particular song in my head, but those are the things I thought about when I thought about the spaceships, when I thought about the fighting scenes and things like that. I thought about those artists. What else am I supposed to say?
You want anybody in the movie? What did you want to be in the movie?
Oh, what role would I take? I think I would definitely take the role of a writer. Yep. And I would rewrite Nakia. I would change her role. I would write in some different characters, maybe incorporate more of the Marvel Comics characters, but not have them be main characters. I like the connection between Storm and T'Challa in the comics. The character of M'Baku in the comics, Ryan Coogler did an awesome job of changing the character of M'Baku to make him something that would be acceptable to us.
Right,
because Man-Ape is not acceptable, and that was the name in the comic. So I would want to explore more of the different tribes and more of his tribe in the mountain and them sticking with traditions. So I would definitely take on the role as a writer if I were to. Oh, how do you find me? How do you find me?
You're a maroon.
How do you find me? I'm maroon.
She maroon. You can't find me.
No, you can't find me.
She said, you find me when when I'm here.
She ain't really here right now.
He's like, you find me when I come out.
I get it though. I get it.
Said you. He said, you find me when I want you to.
There it is.
A family. Like that's
Right.
what you can find.
To plug a playlist that was created by the homie DJ Complex for the Art of Wakanda, there is a playlist that was curated by him based off of the creativity of the Art of Wakanda. You can find it on YouTube. Just Google the Art of Wakanda, you can find it there. But for this soundtrack, I was having flashbacks of the 90s and how in the 90s there was this one group that literally kicked in the door and bring in Afrocentric everything during the time of hair weaves and, you know, bodysuits and everything. Across the pond, this group called Soul to Soul.
Come on, let's go. You're right.
And dreadlocks,
Yeah.
everything, and colored patterns, and just like they even went Afro-futuristic with having computers intermixed with the drums and everything. And I
Right.
thought about that today, and I was like, could I put that on the playlist? Yes, I
I
will.
Can I kick it?
Oh my God. And thinking about Karen Wheeler, just how she was in body and in skin tone and in defiance. And it is a fact that during the 90s, there was a certain look that you were supposed to have. And she defied that. So yes, Karen Wheeler, please come to Durham, please. Like DPAC, Carolina Theater, make it happen. But honestly, my selection would be, as just for one song, Laura Muvola. I love her. I hope that I get to see her in Durham one day. But the song would be Phenomenal Woman. And the video is just, it was Black Panther before Black Panther even came out. You know, the vibrancy, the colors, but the lyrics of the song is definitely needed on this soundtrack. No one ever told her she was beauty. One day she realized she was already free. The color in her eyes was fire rising. She found the light inside a new horizon. She battled through in every tribulation. She reveled in adventure and imagination. She never listened to no hater, liar, breaking boundaries and chasing fire. Oh my, she flies. So that would be my selection, Phenomenal Woman.
Can you speak on that? Do you mind just kind of sharing those?
From the Art of Wakanda playlist, Revolution from Arrested Development, Fight the Power from Public Enemy, Liberation from Outcast, Superman, Chasing Goosebumps featuring Glenn Lewis, Everyday People, Sly and the Family Stone, Young, Gifted, and Black by Nina Simone, Thieves in the Night, Black Star, Black Maybe, Common, What's Going On, Marvin Gaye, and The Revolution Will Not Be Televised by Gil Scott Heron. Oh yeah. You can find me under Omni76. It has, I live for that profile pic, and it will be there forever and a day. A Strong Side Eye by Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Giving you just truth and defiance in the best way of the black side eye. Yes. Yeah. And then you can find me under my government name, Jamila Renee Davenport, on Facebook.
Yes, yes.
I'm just gonna leave. Don't even worry about it. Okay, soundtrack. So I didn't come up with no like accumulated soundtrack. last year, I think it was last year, Jadena came out with the Chief. And I think the first 4 tracks, which are A Bull's Tale, Chief Don't Run, and the other 2 are like All Hail the Chief and Helicopters. Oh my God, Helicopters. One day I'll tell you how Helicopters helped me write a whole book. So I think that that's T'Challa's soundtrack. It just really deals with what it's like to be the son of a chief and for that chief to die, and the ripple effects that happen in your life, especially when he, at the end, towards the end, Bully of the Earth, he actually goes back and he talks to his father to kind of catch him up. And I was like, oh shit, T'Challa, ancestral plane. So if you have a chance, go listen to that. That'll knock socks off. Role, I would literally crawl in Ryan Coogler's head and stay there for as long as he would have me. Yeah.
All right.
There's no explanation. We know that this man is brilliant, and I just want to leap. Like an alien, you know when they got up in, is that alien? Body snatchers, when they got in the nose, and they took the spores.
Round the pond. Get in here.
All right, so gonna jump around just a little bit to talk about identity and what that has to do with my work. There was a specific objective before I came up with the objective of creating positive and magical imagery of people of color. I found this artist whose work I loved and I was just drawn to it. I was excited by it. He paints light in this way that's wonderful. It's orange and yellow and it just makes you feel like people are glowing. And I'm looking at all this art and I'm like, where are the black people? And it was a frustrating moment because it seemed like every artist I looked for, it's like, okay, I love their work, I love what they're doing, and then there was nothing of me in it. There was nothing of my sisters, my mom, my family in it. And unfortunately what that means for us is that we've had life experiences of not seeing us in things. So something exciting about this movie, and I think about this fairly frequently, y'all understand that there are children who, prior to the election of Donald Trump, didn't understand that a president wasn't black. That's an exciting thing for a number of reasons. That means that they don't have to pioneer the thought that they have to be something else in order to be able to obtain this role of power or to be excellent or something else like that. The beauty of that is that you have a whole new generation of children who have movies like this, and y'all, we set records. I believe it's us that showed up for it, but we set records with this movie. So money talks, which means there are going to be more movies where there are people that look like us being great. It's not because we're being funny. It's not that we're making fun of each other. It's that we're telling stories, doing our best, and people are excited about it. So there will be more of this, which means that those same kids who saw Obama as president will see these movies of Black Panther where it's not us as farces of ourselves, it's us in excellence. They'll see other things like that. So it's not that they have to imagine themselves in these roles because they created it as an idea that came to them one day. It's that they have examples that show them that that's possible. That's kind of what I want to do with my work. Now, whether or not I accomplish that objective, we'll see when I die. It's one of those things where you look back on a life and see the impact you've made, and I hope, I pray that there's a great one, that I've changed lives, and we'll see. So that being the case, with identity, I have a show that just opened. It's called Right Before We Fly. And it centers around the idea that as a Black person in particular, I think there are a lot of moments where you're told that there are things that you can and cannot be. And the problem with being told what you cannot be is that a lot of times we listen to those voices, and my show pays tribute to the people who prove to you otherwise, who show you that you can make it, the people who are your guiding lights in life and get you to the aspirations that you've got, and the people who hold your hand along the way and all that stuff. So that shows up at Anchorlight during the month of March 17th. There's going to be something big and wonderful because the next day I'll be turning 25. So also this weekend, February 9th, there's a dramatic reading of For Colored Girls in that space. Word. So, word.
Wait, where is Anchorlight?
Anchorlight is 1401 South Bloodworth Street in Raleigh.
It's in Raleigh.
Oh, that's your point. Sorry.
I want people to show up.
No, it's Yeah,
true.
so,
Thank you, Lynn.
If you're down, totally come down. You can find me on Instagram at Dare Coulter. That's Dare. Coulter is Coulter. I'm on Facebook as the same. And instead of answering hold on. Rolling the film, artist. I think I would make the hell out of some altars to ancestors involving sculptures, because that was missing.
Say it.
That
Yeah.
together, it would be so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That would be great. Now, my closing thing, and I'm going to leave it on a sweet note. So my song that I would add, there's a song by a guy named DeVito called Fall. In the lyrics he says, money fall on you, banana fall on you, Prada fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. And it's like this really poppy, catchy song. And I thought it was the sweetest thing because one, no partner has ever said that they wish bananas fall on me. But it's like to say, I wish you all of these good things. And I think that's the core of it. So my mom pointed out that bananas would hurt if they hit you in the head, but of course it's probably not literal bananas. But I think that's what Wakanda gets to be for us. It's this idea of good things falling upon you. It's well wishes, it's great things, it's beauty internally and externally, and all the wonderful things that we imagine for ourselves or want for ourselves materialize. So may bananas fall on all of you. And thank you so much for coming out to listen to us talk.
Wow.
Next year. May bananas fall on you.
May bananas
That's a new shirt.
fall
You know that,
on
right?
you.
It'll be on Instagram in like a couple of days.
Please do that.
Oh, yes. You gotta do something with it. That was beautiful. And all of that was beautiful. I just want to thank you all again. Can we give our panelists a round of applause? Yes. Let them do that. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, say ready?
Hold on.
Wait. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Wakanda gotta break it.
And thank you to all of you for your responses, for your to Arcana, for real, for just going all the way out for this event, and also the responses and you all sharing the event. This has been still such a great response because this was planned to be a very intimate conversation, which is kind of what we got. We got a little bit more than intimate tonight, but we had originally planned this to be an intimate conversation, and then it just took all the way off. And I just, I'm really excited about what we can do with this when it's not raining. And we were all like overly prepared for just like, oh my God, like 1,600 people, what are we gonna do if people like really show up like that? So I want to say thank you. Also want to remind you of the names of the people who are on the panelists tonight and the upcoming events. So, on the 13th, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I need that extra accountability, at 6:30 at the Hayti Heritage Center is the Writers of Wakanda. We already have several reservations, but that event